Why? Hello there. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, my name is Mr. Doggo333, and welcome back to Arts Around for the New Order as United Mexican States. Now, last time we were here together, we started going after some corruption, and we're doing our best to finally end this fucking strike. I mean, goddamn, how long can this bitch go for? It's all coming together, I think. Pemex headquarters in Mexico City could often be a quiet place, or often always many employees taking trips out to one oil field or another, leaving a skeleton crew to hold the fort. When the annual production reports came in, though, you could hardly walk 10 steps without bumping into someone. The CEO of Pemex sat in his office, tapping a pencil against the sides of his head and listening to cacophony-ringing phones. This was the worst time of the year, not the production reports themselves, but presenting his own report to the president afterwards. He and his ministers would invariably demand another impossible increase to his production for the next year. Secretaries began to carry papers in his office. He took a moment to flick through a few pages. Not a figure caught his eye. Surely there was a missing decimal point there. 12% annual growth in net operating prices? He grabbed the papers and took a closer look. It was true, and the culprit, it seemed, was Hitachi. The computers the government had ordered imported that year were making waves at the rigs, making possible massive streamlining effort in the company's logistics department. The CEO hesitated for a few seconds before rushing to the phone and dialing the president's appointment secretary. Perhaps he might even be happy with this one. Hitachi bringing people pleasure, as it should be. What do we got here? A quantitative beauty line in front of the president's eyes. A chart located on the entire wall detailing the inner workings of the Indo-Pacific trade. Import and export volumes, tariff information, the kinds of goods traded, piracy locations, along with numbers route. The president's eyes were drawn to a new addition on the center right side, however, a middle-sized dot by the name of Melchor Ocampo. As you can see, Your Excellency, the growth targets for a new port have been met. Ministry of Commerce official drew his guest's attention towards the numbers on the right side of the screen. Have they been exceeded? No. Faces stiff competition from other ports in the region, particularly from the established American ports in the region, like on the West Coast, and from the U.S. allies in the Pacific. Ours, cautionary tariffs are proving to be a roadblock to further foreign investment. The Secretary of Industry and Commerce has already prepared a proposal. You may have a look. The president takes the document of a large page of jargon with a summary on top. A free port status with reduced customs and trade barriers with a projected free market increase of double-digit. The president stops reading this and realizes what his proposal would do. Wouldn't this get rid of some of our guarantees for our domestic industry? Yes, Your Excellency. These things come at a cost. Any source of income will open the Yucatan, totaling to $200 million. The fuck does that mean? That can be like, oh, we got a new active project. In the meanwhile, we can start a fucking Productos Forestales Mexicanos. Mexico's forests have sustained nearby peasantry for generations, providing game and charcoal. Yet, with well-directed imperatives, those forests can do far more. By improving rural infrastructure, trucks can take wood to wherever hungry sawmills and furniture manufactories. Improved planning and more vigorous enforcement of environmental regulations will also ensure that our forests remain a joy and source of prosperity for generations to come. There we go. We're going to build a forest, guys. And we are now over our debt in the region. Great. Same in Mexico, actually. Mexico City. Well, I mean, Yeah, go ahead. We need the investment. Hector felt like snapping Nana's ballpoint pen in two. Unlike the Gordian knot, however, the recent dilemma of his could not be solved with simple brute force. Perhaps a greater man than Hector, real Alexander, would have loosened it and dislodged with a mere stroke of a sword, saving him from the vice around his neck that left him constrained, strangled. He swore minced oaths under his breath as the bureau refused to break. It rolled along his desk, hitting the last document that he had signed, the expulsion order for Vicente Alcade, removing him from the ranks of CNC. The trouble was that it was a small world. Most of his expulsions orders Hector had spent the last hour signing off were his friends, neighbors. I wonder how he would be able to look to Senor Alcade in the eye next time he saw him. Sorry. Such a domineering, tenacious man, left groveling at the feet of an acquaintance for forgiveness. These are not his orders, yes, but would they believe that a man of his stature had no pull anymore? Ramon Delgado's retirement only made things worse. Men of his generation, good honest, hardy party members, were dying out. There was no wheat left to separate from the chaff with his new crop. Leftists, radicals, Lombardists, they knew nothing of this world. But they would certainly know of Hector's repression of Partito Popular, the fertilizer boycott that was still the source of gossip after all these years. How much time did he have left before he kicked the chair out underneath him? He hit stop on the tape recorder. Arturo wished he still had access to a black boy as a cadre huddled around the plans. How were the children of Dolores doing anyway? One less Cadillo, but one less teacher too. He'd hoped the sacrifice would be worth it, but worrying about it was pointless now. He'd made his choice, and now it was time to act upon it. Comrades, gentlemen, I can't say it hasn't been fun playing at being Chuco El Roto these past 3 months, but the time has come for greater deeds. The army may be deployed against us, but little word spread out over the hills of Sierra Madre. How can we emulate the success of the 26th of July movement if we have no 26th of July of our own? Fortunately, we've found the perfect target for such an operation. 7 days' time, the barracks of Madera shall be our own Moncada. The Sierra Madre shall soon be our Sierra Mastre. Some of the guerrillas cheered, but many others remained silent. But, comrade, how are we going to fight a whole garrison? The state's already crawling with soldiers as is, and sure, Moncada was a propaganda victory eventually, but Castro failed to take the barracks and 60 rebels died. More than the amount of people we have in total. Torres smiled. I was hoping you asked me that. See, Castro's mistake was that he started the Peasants' War after the raid, where we've done the reverse. As our army friends are a little too busy looking for us to guard their own turf, a little birdie has told me they only have a skeleton crew left inside. Them and a ton of useful equipment and weapons. Don't worry, comrade, I'm not sending us off to die. Now, who's with me? Now all the men cheered. Let's do Hornets in the engine chamber. Alright. The forces of reaction have always stood in the way of progress, and as we expected, the old guard and technocratic factions are no different from reactionaries other revolutionaries have faced in the past. However, the lengths to which they have gone to halt our advance have been far more drastic than anyone anticipated. Their stubbornness is making our allies reluctant to press on. It's becoming clear to us that if we are going to accomplish our goals and secure Madras's mandate for Mexico, we'll have to put in a fight of our own. Change is coming and our opposition will move or be moved. Jeez. We have to get under 20. Alright, I'm gonna just... Alright. Guess we'll hold outs. And then we'll use the weapon. Above Mexico City, the beating sun bakes the high, dry ground and bites people in the oppressive heavy air. Every step creates a dust cloud that joins the smog of the bustling capital. In one corner of the city, an organized group of medical professionals march in circles, kicking up dust and fuss with their placards and demands held high. The army members marching are experts at this point, veterans of the fight against the government. Everything was going as planned. The only problem was the reception. Besides them and their dust, the streets were empty. There were no journalists, police, or even curious citizens going about their day. Only the sun was about to witness what would happen next. Man-made smoke descended upon the striking men. Fired from grenade launchers or rolled on the cobbled streets, the chemical clouds mixed in with dust and chaos signaled the end of the peaceful display. The riot police thundered onto a scene like a storm. There was no negotiation. There were no warnings or time to disperse. Police with their masks and clubs were sent there by their masters to send a message. The sun beat down their dark uniforms. It was sweat-covered hands which beat down the protesters. The velvet glove was to be replaced with the iron rod. With their mastery of medicine, and vows to heal all the other others, the Army was no match in the fight against the hardened police of the capital. Quick succession, doctors and interns alike were shoved, beaten, and handcuffed until submission or retreat. When the smoke cleared, the devastation wrought left no evidence of the supposed collective bargaining power of the Army. Caked in blood, sweat, and dust, most of the men, just protesting minutes before, would scramble at home to look at their wounds, never again facing the state or challenging the revolution's institutions. The state had the monopoly on violence and the revolution. You're damn right we do. Okay, can we finally end this shit? I don't suppose you just invited me out here for drinks, Fernando. Chivera began as a server disappeared with her orders. What's going on? Sluice and Duran were both seen entering Velasquez's villa last night. We think they're positioning themselves as figureheads of an anti-Madrasas coalition of the party. Echeverria adjusted his glasses and let out a sigh. Thank you for bringing this matter to my attention. I'll make sure this goes no further. He wondered if Gutierrez Barrios knew he was lying. Echeverria had hacked Madrazo to the hilt. Had backed Mexico at Madrazo to the hilt since his ascension to the presidency, but every passing day seemed he made new enemies in the party. He did not want to turn Madrazo the first sign of opposition, but he knew as well as anyone what tearing the party apart could mean for Mexico. For now, Echeverria would watch and wait. Like rapid thunder hurled from the mercy of a southern cyclone, our successes are compiled and amassed at the breach of the tunnel of tribulation. The people of Mexico can issue a sigh of relief, for the light of hope had just been reached. The threads of the old guard are slowly slipping from relevancy. The Vente de Noviembre Hospital in the Federal District. Once again, a sea of men and women in white coats with signs stood on the street in front of it. Sympathizers and interested citizens dot the crowd, but they were not here to protest or call attention to the injustices and abuse they had suffered, but to listen to the man many had privately seen as the enemy. The obstacles to redress of their grievances against the corrupt system. We must remember, it's not the enemy that brings forward new points of view in good faith. It's not an opponent of revolution that calls for dialogue and analysis, nor is it one who calls for the active and direct intervention of a state in the issues that they face. On the contrary, the government must be made up of men and women of true moral stature who can find agreement and take patriotic action. And that government should always be a summary of the best intentions, a point where the efforts of the best citizens converge. When the medical profession stood up, he made it clear from the start your goal was a long overdue restructuring of the medical community in accordance with the needs of Mexican people. I cannot imagine your decision to strike was one made lightly, but in the face of intolerable conditions that had gone on too long, broken promises and mounting struggles. Mexico thanks you that you did not put your strike in the way of your vows to do no harm, continuing to resist with life-saving actions. The reasonableness of doctors and residents have made it possible to achieve our recent agreements. The revolution began as a fight for political and economic freedoms. Soldiers were humble ranchers. Its generals were men who lacked of tactical knowledge was made up for by instinct and bravery. Today you may not look at yourselves and see the brave revolutionaries that rose out of the peasantry, but I will tell every man and woman that those who are filled with enlightened faith in Madero, those who love the progress of their country, and those who are excited to action, are once again heroes of the revolution of this era. And so, as this new era of revolution begins, I welcome the AAM and Omri into it with open arms. We welcome those who reject haughtiness and disdain for understanding and dialogue. We welcome a true current of optimism into our organization. I hope that you bring your patriotism and desire to solve the problems of our nation into the CNOP. Que se para bien dia de Mexico. It's a combination of fee concessions and wise governance. We've pushed the unions to accept being absorbed into the official state unions, finally putting an end to a crippling doctor strike. Beautiful. Arturo Ramirez led out the first whoop. He was joined by a vast chorus, seasoned GPG fighters besides him on the hillside, students and teachers to the west, peasants by the rail line hollering, stomping, and banging, advancing towards the darkened barracks of Madera where moments before soldiers had laid sleeping. The outnumbered battalion now scrambled, some for their weapons, others for cover. Two desperate privates raised their hands in surrender and charged out of the front gates. Orders barked and rifles hefted, but the weak starlight could not hide they were surrounded. Then, as at Agua Prieta, the burst of a spotlight made all the difference. A train rounding the herd illuminated the ragged farmers by the track. Its piercing whistle cut through the cries. When the horn ceased, the first sound to rise was, "The army is coming!" The second was a rain of gunfire from the base on the panicked peasants. For the few who did not break and run, it became a slaughtering ground. Arturo could see the light, hear the whistle of the gunshots, but he could not stop the charge. How could he? His GPG companions were by his side. Jacobo and Gaitan's rebellions to the north, his north and south. Liberation within his grasp. He breached the barracks gate and fired and fired and fired again. Troops dropped to sodden ground as his comrades swept into the barracks, hacking and shooting. Arturo cried, "For the revolution." And so did a lieutenant marshalling forces by the command post. The ones whose outstretched finger guided the first shot to Arturo's stomach, and the second to his temple. The schoolteacher's eyes would not see his proud movement fleeing to the Sierra. His ears would not hear the cheers and sobs surrounding his crumpled form. But for a moment, if only for a moment, he had felt the fire his revolution would bring. Uh-oh. Yesterday, September 23rd, 1965, saw uprisings occur simultaneously in the state of Chiapas. The culprit was discovered quickly. The Grupo Popular, the GPG, communist guerrilla group based in the rural countryside. Some parts of Chihuahua are still occupied by the GPG. However, a center point of their attack collapsed when they faced heroic resistance from Mexican armed forces stationed in their barracks near Madera. The leader of GPG, Arturo Gomez, is confirmed to have been shot and killed in the assault. The defeat of these rebels is expected to come quickly. However, that a revolt of this scale occurred at all is an indictment of the negligence and criminality of former Governor Praxedes Guinea Duran. The fire squashed, but twigs are still alight. Well, shit. Well, the end of the beginning is here. Nonsense. Complete nonsense. Where reform's ever going to be enough to please all of our efforts, and the people return the favor with rage not seen since the Cristeros or the Revolution? It seems our administration has remained arrogant and naive regarding a certain fact of life. Where we give a mile, some want the whole distance. Madrazo wants a revolutionary too, and knows of a storm that is coming, of which there is only one remedy. It is time to take off the gloves. The strike ending is nice, but they really, really cannot just... Lupita ran to catch the bus, nearly tripping over the cracked tiles, only to watch as the bus kicked up dust plumes as the engine coughed and sputtered away. She just spent overtime fixing a patient's IV line and missed her fare. For some absurd reason, the service only ran every 2 hours, so she trots back in the building to kill time. Walking to the hallway, she saw her old faithful, the old gurney, and prepared to go rest her head for a while. Lupita? She turned her head to see Professor Cespedes, sheepishly standing out and cradling a trilby by his chest, as if he was prepared to use it as a shield against threats unknown. Professor Cespedes, is there something wrong? No, I'm fine. Please. Call me Isaac. I was just looking to visit to see how things were going, you know. Peter smiled wryly, rubbing her nape. Mr. the Bus, it's not running for another 2 hours. Apart from that, I'm all right. Cespedes shot a thumb over his shoulder to point down the hallway. I could drive you home, if you wish. I'd like that. Isaac. Ooh, Isaac, you dog. Good on you. The chill air of liberated San Rafael greeted Jacobo Gamiz with silence. He expected resistance. The clamor woodsmen and peasants waited for the guns Arturo had promised them so that they could push on at last. But no, we only saw a tight band of guerrillas, veterans of his old column, hunched in the square. They parted their circle as they approached, mustachioed Daniel, blinking back tears as he handed him a weathered copy of a herald. Army holds Madeira. GPG leader killed. He didn't read beyond the headline, just excused himself and walked to the nearest cabin. As soon as the door closed, he crumpled to the floor, face awash with tears and throat choking with each gasp. Arturo had been invincible. The Chihuahua needed. The revolutionary Mexico needed. The brother Jacobo needed. How could he be taken from them when so many worthless cowards still walked the earth? Jacobo sat sobbing to his sleeve as time drifted by. He almost... No. Hamid washed his face and, clutching the door frame, managed to pull himself back up. The teacher of Dolores was dead, but the teacher of Mexico's true revolutionaries would live forever. Cheeks red and puffy from weeping, Jacobo walked back outside with his head held high. In a hoarse voice, he said, "We've lost dear comrades and brothers, but, dear comrades and brothers, we have not lost. I will fight for the revolution that Arturo foresaw, that he fought for until my dying day. May we live to see the inevitable victory of Mexico's working people over their oppressors. But if we fall, as Arturo fell, our revolution can never die. I march south. If you will fight on, join me." And there we go. The doctor's strike is over. And thank fuck for that. And there's our debt crisis. But we now have improved literacy. That's pretty cool. We also have a massive debt crisis in a lot of areas. Alright, slash agricultural subsidies. It's not like we have much agriculture going on here. Some mojitos. Some infrastructure spending. West, southeast, west. Yeah, shit. That should do it. And meanwhile, it's time to, play tough. Ladies and gentlemen, his voice, that of the governor of Baja California, boomed outwards towards the crowd surrounding the Cerro Prieto geothermal power plant, a state rally that he had planned, though certainly by how far the crowd stretched, the largest in state history. But he wasn't the sole governor in attendance. Before we begin, I would like to thank Governor Bonifacio and Governor Luis for attending the ceremony. The crowd got their chance to roar, a prelude of what he liked to hear. The aforementioned two appreciated. Bonifacio also let a smile linger. El Gato continued speaking, and the audience fell quiet. And also, I would like to give my sincere thanks to those who made this all possible. First and foremost, former President Adolfo Lopez Mateos. Without him, I would not be standing in front of a finished building, or even any sort of structure. Next, the Confederation Mexican Workers, the Autonomous University of Baja California. When reality set in, in for what the audience attended, a ceremony with no doubt a longer speech, it became harder and harder to listen to the same voice. Droopier, the eyes slowly came to. The power of the revolution is what truly drove his project. Another explosion of noise came from the stage, shaking the audience awake. In a few decades from now, the revolution will no doubt have changed not only in Baja, but all of Mexico entirely. Here. Eligio, the governor of Baja California North, drew closer to a switch. Definitely sized up for viewing. Is a peek of the future that the revolution will bring. I present to you. His hands laying on the switch, currently facing towards the ground, while the might flinging it upwards. The stage he was standing on seemingly exploded in luminance. The beginning. And that's pretty cool. Speaking of which, the end of the beginning. Alright. Lock him down. The raid's aftermath has brought an uncomfortable revelation. We can no longer trust our secretariats, whom we suspect have been infiltrated by anti-revolutionaries and our other reactionaries. Traitors in our midst will get what's theirs later. For now, it's time we take the gloves off for the insurgents. Sarkanis knows how to deal with these types, and we've given him all he needs for success. The German will deploy a massive column and sweep the Sierra clean of reactionary filth. As Obregon once marched into Baja, we will march into the north. Madera barracks raided. The people. The radio became white noise in the Madrazo's head, eventually interrupted by phone beeps from the governor trying to reach out. What had happened? His ideals were shattered listening to his news. A knock on the door was heard. Excellency, are you there? It was a familiar voice, that of Del Rosal. He heard the news, but Madrazo didn't answer. Shocked, frozen, sullen, Madrazo found himself unable to move for the longest time. Fucking idiots! One side of himself thought. Why weren't they on our side? What had led them to such extremes? What pushed them to take up arms? Madrazo had rage on one eye and fear on the other. He knew what was going to happen next. As he regained his senses, Madrazo found himself desperate and horrified. There was no longer a future without dealing with what had happened. Del Rosal, please call a meeting. I will not lie down and let these people do as they please. They are a threat to the very fabric of our society. These subversives will crawl back in the holes that they came from, and they will wait until the perfect time to strike again. Gentlemen, they think of themselves as revolutionaries, not stuff out of remnants of these guerrillas, then they will try to overthrow our government. We must show them that we are the revolution manifest. His Excellency, President Carlos Madrazo, stomped in rage as he assembled his cabinet, as if his very voice would give his enemies pause. Madrazo wiped his sweating brow and looked up at the audience. The executive cabinet was made up of Madrazo's most trusted advisor, the most powerful men in the PRI. They would know what to do. You're completely right. Secretary of National Defense Lazar Cardenas was first to speak through the silence created by the President's impassioned speech. I believe that full military action is necessary. If you think it right, it can begin drawing up plans immediately. Cardenas was one of the most experienced politicians in Mexico and had led anti-guerrilla campaigns during the Civil War. Madrazo could trust him with his enemies. Other cabinet members are not in agreement. Excellency, perhaps a moment of calm is necessary. Secretary Sierra interjected. The recent raid about which we are so concerned about may not be as severe as originally anticipated. Perhaps the people are simply signaling that they desire for reforms. Reforms we can provide for them with a little open communication. Madrazo would have usually listened to his friend's wise counsel, but he felt the walls closing in. He was surrounded by an enemy that only understood the language of violence. The military will settle this. On that note, I'm going to leave it there. But thanks for always watching, gang. Like if you like, dislike if you didn't. Leave any comments or feedback down in the comment section below. I read all of them that I get, and I appreciate any feedback you may have for me. Check out my various links down in the script box below. Canada West, really? I was going to go too much. Anyway. Yeah. I'll see you all in the next video. That's the point. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.